Please take your seats. Our program is about to begin.
At the turn of the 20th century, America was a land of limitless possibility. The skyline rose with steel and ambition, bold, daring, and unstoppable. Fueled by the American dream, small-town entrepreneurs built companies that reshaped industries and uplifted their communities. Innovation became the heartbeat of our nation. In 1912, local business leaders united with a shared purpose: to create a single voice dedicated to defending free enterprise, empowering businesses to serve people, provide solutions, and strengthen society. That voice became the U.S. Chamber of Commerce, committed to advancing economic freedom and opportunity for every American. For over a century, we've been a driving force at the crossroads of progress, shattering barriers, fueling growth, and creating opportunities for people building better lives. We don't just support business, we ignite it. From local startups to global enterprises, we create an environment where potential thrives, empowering communities, leaders, and creators to transform bold ideas into lasting impact. Working with and for a local, national, and global federation of partners, we fight for American businesses in the courts, in state capitals, in Washington, and on the world stage. Steadfast in our principles, unwavering in our resolve, uncompromising in doing what's right. This is America's story, written with vision, bound by conviction, illustrated through courage, and enriched by the hard work of everyday people, local business owners, and global visionaries who continue to define us. It's an enduring legacy of strength, determination, and shared ambition. One we proudly build upon as we work to write the next chapter of our nation's story. Join us. Together, let's build a future of growth and opportunity for the pursuit.
Thank you and good afternoon. Welcome to the Great Hall here at the United States Chamber of Commerce. I'm Rick Wade, Senior Vice President of our Department of Strategic Alliances and Outreach. You may or may not know that we're the world's largest business organization, representing the interests of some 3 million companies, some 2,000 state and local chambers of commerce, part of our federation, our American Chambers of Commerce in 130 countries around the world. Our trade association partners, some have joined us this afternoon: the Motion Picture Association, the Recording Industry Association of America, the Entertainment Software Association, and the Distilled Spirits Council of the United States. And I'm thrilled about our new collaboration with BISLA, Black Entertainment and Sports Lawyers Association. Many of them are represented this afternoon. And for those who have traveled from far and wide, thank you for making the journey to be here. For our local attendees, thank you for joining us in this really important conversation, an economic engine, sports, entertainment, and policy-driven growth. Today, we're going to explore the dynamic and increasingly complex intersection of sports, entertainment, and policy. For decades, these three fields have influenced each other, but the pace of change has never been faster. The lines between traditional media and digital entertainment are blurring, forcing us to redefine how content is created, distributed, and consumed. The business of sports is evolving, driven by innovation in data, technology, and fan engagement. And at the same time, policy decisions are shaping the rules of the game, from regulations around NIL, sports betting, to discussion on athlete safety and global governance. The issues we'll cover, from intellectual property rights, aren't just theoretical. They're real-world impacts on athletes, artists, businesses, and society at large. Our goal here is not just to analyze these trends, but to think critically and collaboratively about solutions. So this brief program this afternoon is packed with insightful fireside chats and panel discussions. You'll hear from athletes who've turned from pros to CEOs, leaders of major sports organizations. We'll explore the rise of women's sports and even sports on the continent of Africa and so much more. And this is your chance also to connect with peers, challenge your assumptions, and develop new relationships. So thank you again for being here. Let's get ready for an inspiring and productive afternoon. Please join me in welcoming Mr. Chris Swanger, President and CEO of the Distilled Spirits Council of the United States. Let's go.
Hi, everyone. My name's Chris Swanger, and I have the privilege of being the President and CEO of the Distilled Spirits Council of the United States. And it's a real privilege to be here with the U.S. Chamber. And if I may, let me just tell you something about the distilled spirits industry and our ties and affiliation to the sporting industry. Dozens of professional stars are affiliated with spirits brands, including professional basketball, you're going to see some tonight, football, soccer, golf players, you name it, UFC, MMA fighters have all gotten into the spirits business. Spirits affiliated with sports stars run the gamut, from bourbon to tequila to rum, ready to drink canned cocktails as well. Celebrities have long seen the value of investing in premium luxury distilled spirits products, with actors and musicians leading the way, but sports celebrities too. Celebrity sports stars are drawn to the luxury brands that reflect the quality, style, and sophistication of some of the brands that y'all are going to enjoy later this afternoon. From a business perspective, it's a smart move. As spirits continue to grow in popularity, many adult sports fans are enjoying cocktails while also cheering for their favorite teams. With thousands of spirits brands competing for attention, those backed by sporting celebrities can enjoy instant visibility and a loyal customer base. To be successful, though, a good fit between the celebrity's image and the brand identity is key. Spirits companies take great pride in the way we market and advertise and sell our products to legal drinking age consumers, so upholding high standards of responsibility are key. Discus is here in partnership with Pronghorn. We have a great platform called Distilled Together, and you're going to meet some of the celebrities today and try some of the brands. CJ McCollum's here with a wine. Isaiah Thomas has got a champagne. Josh Norman, Commander's Great, has got an Omni cocktail, and I understand he's got some coffee as well. The Omni cocktail is flavored infused bourbon, so you're going to have to try that. And then we have also, later this afternoon, 3708 Spirits is here, so you're going to get to try their products. Amber Opal Spirits Company, Arthur Wheeler Spirits Company. All three of those great companies are small craft distillers right in our neighborhood in Maryland. And then Inalama Tequila. You're going to meet my friend Melanie Shelby. She is awesome, and you're going to get to try some of the smoothest tequila on the planet as well. So thank you for being here. The industry is proud to partner with the great business and management of sports, and we're excited to be here and be a partner with the Chamber. Thank you very much. Thanks.
Good afternoon. My name is Adrienne Williams, and I have the pleasure of serving as the chairwoman of BSLA. BSLA is a nationally recognized leader in premium and innovative legal education, and professional development focused on sports and entertainment. We have a network of over 5,000 lawyers, students, professionals, business leaders, creatives, and athletes. Beazley is now in its 45th year, and it has seen the emergence and sometimes the sunsetting of many business practices and industries. Throughout that 45-year history, Beazley has remained at the forefront of industry thought leadership and advocacy, including opening pathways to economic opportunities and decision-making parity. Our founders and members have blazed trails in sports, entertainment, and business, all while reaching back to educate and empower. I'd like to take a moment to recognize and salute the vision of Beazley's founders, including Louise West, who is with us today, and the late, great Tim Crawford, whose granddaughter, Aja Ellison, will moderate a very timely discussion for us this afternoon as well. Beazley remains committed to helping lawyers and professionals meet each moment, thrive in uncertainty, and advance opportunity despite ever-changing landscapes. And we are honored to join the DC Chamber of Commerce and all of you honored partners and guests today. Thank you.
Good afternoon. All right, thank you. My name is Neil Bradley. I'm the Executive Vice President, Chief Policy Officer, and Head of Advocacy at the U.S. Chamber. And I just have to tell you, this is exciting. Do you all feel excited? Are you excited by this? You know, this room's about 100 years old. And if you think about the century of things that have occurred at the Chamber of Commerce, we've had lots of convenings about the leading industries of America. We've sat in this room and we've talked about manufacturing and what it does for America and how we expand it. We've sat in this room and we've talked about construction and how we build things in America. We've sat in this room and we've talked about retail and how we bring things to market, not just to consumers in this country, but around the world. We sat here and talked about the challenges of healthcare, but never before have we sat down to talk about sports as an industry. That is long past time to do. What you all do, what you contribute, you are economic drivers. It is time that we start thinking about the sports industry the way that we think about construction and manufacturing and retail and healthcare. It's time that we think about public policy and what it can do to allow this industry to grow, to thrive, can contribute more to the American dream and to the opportunity of millions of people in thousands of communities across the United States. You know, it's really fun that this has become an export industry for the United States. Not surprisingly, we have not just the best and brightest, we have the best athletes often in the world. And those who are around the world often want to come here to participate in our leagues and programs. We attract the best talent, and then we export the best that athletics has to offer to around the world. As an American, that's something to be really proud of. As an executive at the U.S. Chamber of Commerce, that's something that we want to celebrate. So I just want to say thank you. I want to say thank you for being here to help us launch this important work. I want to commit to you that this is the first of many gatherings in this room, and one day we'll be talking about the sports industry in the same way that we talk about wholesale trade and transportation and professional services, because you are part of what's going to make the next great American century. Thanks for all you do. Thanks for joining us today, and enjoy a wonderful program.
Good afternoon. It is great to be here today and back into the great hall of the U.S. Chamber of Commerce. And Let me first thank the President and CEO, Suzanne Clark, and of course, Neil Bradley, and my good friend, Rick Wade, for their leadership in inviting me to be with you today. When I often think of sports and entertainment, and when many of us think of it, we use it a lot to distract us, to give us a welcome escape from the demands of our daily lives, from the thrill of live sports and final to captivating stories on the screen, or if you get a chance to get into the stadium itself. These industries actually bring us joy and shared experiences. But beneath the surface, behind the roar of the crowd and the flashing lights, lies a powerful economic engine that generates billions of dollars, creates millions of jobs, and fuels growth in countless related sectors. The economic power of sports and entertainment is not a passing trend, but a foundational force in our economy. These industries do more than simply entertain us. They create those jobs, they stimulate local commerce, they drive infrastructure projects, and they boost community pride. As technology continues to evolve, from streaming platforms to augmented reality to the economic landscape of these sectors, I happen to be the ranking member of the House Foreign Affairs Committee in Congress. And what I do see, I see firsthand how rapidly technology has catalyzed globalization. And borders are not limiting the exchange of information and exposure. They are all kinds now of entertainment in sports. The challenge and the opportunity for us is to understand this evolving dynamic, to innovate in ways that maximize the benefits of communities. In fact, when you think about borders being eliminated, just look at it. The National Football League, now, next 3 or 4 weeks will be abroad. They had a game initially in Brazil. They're all over the world. The NBA, I've gone to camps in my traveling and seen basketball camps being put up by the NBA. They're recruiting all over the world, and you look at the international players that are now playing in the NBA from all over the world. And even think about this sport called football. Most of the places around the world we call soccer, coming right here to the United States. So I look forward to working with you on emerging issues like protecting intellectual property. That's a job that we have in Washington, D.C. Like ensuring that data privacy in the age of AI, which is huge, and there's no regulations right now. And how do we protect it? That's our jobs in Capitol Hill. That's what we do. That's one of the requirements that we have. And as America looks to host the World Cup and Olympics, let us remember the words of Nelson Mandela, who famously stated, and I quote, "Sport has the power to change the world. It has the power to inspire. It has the power to unite people in a way that little else does. It speaks to youth in a language they understand. Sport can create hope where there once was only despair. It's more powerful than governments in breaking down racial barriers and laughs in the face of all types of discrimination." So the next time you cheer for your favorite team or sit down to watch a highly anticipated new film, or remember that you are also participating in a powerful economic system that brings far-reaching prosperity. The game is about more than just points on a scoreboard, and the show is more than just about the story. They are vibrant engines of our economy, and their impact is truly a story worth telling. So I look forward to working with you and all as we enjoy prosperity together and enjoy and understand business is in sports, and let's make sure that we all have the opportunity to participate in it. Thank you all. Enjoy the evening, the afternoon.
Y'all give it up for Isaiah Zeke Thomas.
Let me give it up for y'all.
You know, I want to jump right in because we have limited time. So, Isaiah, I've gotten to know you. You're a good friend. Let's go back as a point guard for Bad Boys, the Detroit Pistons. You, I guess, could be characterized as an ultimate leader. Detroit Pistons were known for their very, I guess, interesting winning culture. Reflect for a couple of minutes what that was like, how you contributed, and how you translated that whole culture to building your company.
Well, when you talk about culture and building a culture, right, you know, we had to first establish what our values were as a team. There had to be significant trust, honesty. We had to make sacrifices. You know, players sacrifice their careers in terms of their scoring average, right? And you always had to be honest with each other. And then the trust that you needed to have, you know, in terms of working together, playing together. And the last thing was discipline, right? So the discipline that we brought to the floor and the way that we executed during the course of the game, we were always described as physically tough, but we always described ourselves, if you go back and listen to us, we talked about being mentally tough. So we thought that we can go out and out-concentrate every other team that we were playing against for 2.5 hours and depend on them not to have that trust in each other, so we would try to break their trust in each other. And that's what, you know, winning was all about. And that took incredible discipline. You know, during that period of time, we were one of the most disciplined teams that were playing in the game of basketball. And that's why we became champions.
Yeah, I think sometimes we underestimate the importance of team and teamwork.
Absolutely.
And every time I talk to you, you know, sometimes I don't talk to him well. I say, Coach, put me back on the team.
Yeah.
But just talk, emphasize again the importance of teamwork and how do you balance that when you got players from different backgrounds who all have the same objective, but that's not easy.
It's not easy, and that's the same thing that I brought into business, right, and running the companies that I do. You're taking players from different backgrounds, but not only are they from different backgrounds, different cultures, different religions, different beliefs, different, you know, political understanding. So how do you get them to drop all that at the door and focus on the goal and the vision of not only growing the company, but winning the game? Right. And that's what it's really all about, right? And once you commit to those values, and then you set the vision, right, everything else goes away. And now you can deal with honesty, truth, sacrifice. Are you disciplined? Are you doing what you need to do to win the game, or you kind of going for yourself? Yeah. So that sacrifice comes in. And, you know, we had a player in Mark Aguirre who was averaging 26, 27 points in Dallas, come to Detroit, and his scoring average goes from 27 to 16. But we win 2 world championships back to back because he says, I'm not going to play 38 minutes a night. I'm going to let this guy named Dennis Rodman play a little bit more. Yeah. Dennis Rodman gets to play a little bit more. Because he gets to play a little bit more, our team elevates defensively and become better. So the sacrifices that go along in that's what equates to winning.
Yeah, yeah. Talk a minute about you're the founder, chair, CEO, Isaiah Enterprises, Isaiah International, quite frankly. Tell us a bit about your enterprises.
So I started Isaiah International in 1990. I bought a company called American Speedy Printing, took it out of bankruptcy, and I was the first player to be on the cover of Forbes magazine for doing that. Now, what Isaiah International is set up to do as a holding company, we incubate, my business background is in startups and turnarounds. So we incubate companies, start them up, spin them out, sell them, right? And then and for the family, right? I'm not one of those guys who say don't hire your family. My family was very poor. I still got a lot of family members very poor. So I try to hire family members. And the demand that I ask them, right, is that when they graduate from college, because I pay all their college tuition, they graduate from college, they got to come back and they got to get a firm 6 months unpaid. And then we teach them life skills, we teach them business skills, and we put them in one of the different companies to work in. And if they like it, then they stay and they get a salary. If they don't like it, then they've had work experience and they can go out. But I always just try to work with, so that's what Isaiah International is basically set up to do, is basically trying to uplift my family out of poverty.
Yeah. You know, give it up. You've spoken a lot about the importance of perseverance and learning from setbacks, whether that's in sport or in business or as an entrepreneur. There's setbacks.
Yes.
We're dealing with disruptions and uncertainty right now. Yeah. I would actually argue that could be a setback. What was a setback that you experienced and how did you overcome it?
The first setback I got was probably in 7th, 8th grade. And why am I going back that far? Because this was a really valuable lesson that I still use today. I had a teacher by the name of Mrs. Hall, right? And she looked at my paper and she marked it up full of red ink. But Rick, when she gave me back the paper, she said, this red ink on the paper is to help you. Don't look at I'm trying to hurt you, right? So that failure and understanding and learning from that red ink, learning from those failures, that's how you get to be better. Right. And then, the more you go in school, the more they say, experience is the best teacher, right? So you learn in two ways. You learn by participation and observation. But experience being the best teacher, that means you're going to fail some, and then you learn from your failures. Yeah. I had a couple of teachers. My ink meant something different back then, but I overcame them. Well, your red ink was probably 99 plus, and I was waiting for you after school saying, hey man, why you didn't let me cheat off your paper?
So, you were a key figure and have always been in the NBA's growth and international expansion. The reality is a lot of people may not know when you think international from business side, 95% of the world's consumers are outside the United States. So always that whole riddle, why did the bank robber rob the bank? I always say it's because where the money was. Yeah. And so you have to go where the customers are. Yes. And so I'm curious, how do you think about international opportunities? Because you are doing business globally.
Well, that's why I named my company Isaiah International, because a lot of the business I do is outside of the United States. And I've done business, in almost every continent. And, I started the Toronto Raptors in Canada, and now I'm in the Aube region of Champagne. I got I'm the highest volume producer of first press champagne in the United States. And when I say first press, that means there's 3 presses of the grape, first, second, and third, right? We give you first press. Most of the champagnes you're drinking here in the United States, second and third press, and CJ is going to come out and talk about wine being first press. But at the champagne level, there's no higher volume producer of first press champagne than myself and Sherlon Champagne. So any of you have tried it in the audience, or some of you have tasted it, you'll know the difference right away between first and second, because the fresh, crisp taste of champagne is just there. Low sugar and zero sugar champagne is what we're known for.
And he's the one who got me off the bad wine. Do you ever get a headache when you drink wine?
Yeah, that sugar will get you.
That sugar will get you, right?
Most champagne drinkers, they drink champagne and they go, I got a headache. And for men, if you drink too much of it, you throw up. Women, after maybe 1.5 glasses, they immediately get a headache because of the sugar and the high sulfites.
Wow. You talk a lot about generational wealth, and the reality is the wealth gap is real. Why is that important?
Hey, man, I grew up poor. You know, I moved 8 times and went to 5 grade schools before the age of 14. And we were one of the families where they would set your furniture outside, right? And I still got a lot of poor people in my family. You know, I've done well, but I still got a lot of nieces and nephews. So I have a company now called One World Products, soon to be Isaiah Enterprises. And as you notice, we make everything Isaiah, so my family don't forget, right? So we have One World Products right now. I'm publicly traded on the OTC. And I just bought a manufacturing plant down in Midland, Michigan, sitting right next to Dow Chemical. And what we do is we're a bioplastic company, so we take biofeed, where we pelletize, pulverize, and macronize to little small pellets. And we're working with the auto industry right now to move plastics out of the auto industry and also in the food space. So when you look on your table right now and the packaging that you're seeing with foods, you'll buy a healthy food, but it's wrapped in plastic. So what we're trying to do is, get into this $1 trillion packaging industry on the OTC. Now, when you say generational wealth, my family now gets a chance to buy stock. As opposed to playing a lottery, now they can buy shares. And if you hold on and we practice group economics as a community, you know, we're the only community that don't practice group economics. But if we practice group economics around a public stock, that stock rises, and once it gets to $1, it gets to the NASDAQ. So when you listen to Bezos and Zuckerman and Gates, and they can say, hey, I made a lot of millionaires, they made it because they started them at 5 cents, and we bought it at $22. Right? And the ones who got in on the ground floor at 5 cents, those are the ones who become the millionaires. And I'm hoping a lot of my family them bought some penny stock in One World Products right now.
Well, listen, my final question as we exit here. With all that you do, Isaiah International family, what do you do for fun? Very quickly. What do you do for fun?
I swim, I golf, and every now and then, I still have to go in the gym and see if my J's still hot.
You still got it? You know? Y'all give it up for Isaiah Big Thomas.
Yeah. Thank you, brother. Appreciate it. Thank you.
Okay, good afternoon, everyone. Okay, it's an honor and pleasure for me to be here. Today we'll be discussing our panel, From Play to Prosperity, Competing in the Business of Sports and Entertainment. I've got a great group of guys right here, where we'll pretty much be diving into how these incredible athletes turned CEOs have transferred their skills from the courts or the field into their respective businesses. So just a brief introduction for me. My name's Asia. I played basketball at the University of Maryland. Now I am a broadcast journalist. I work with ESPN and NBC Sports. So I'm really excited to dive deep into this and pick the brain of these gentlemen. So I want to introduce them first. We have Josh Norman, NFL player, chairman and CEO of ArcNet Global. We have CJ McCollum, who, as you all know, guard for the Washington Wizards, and president of the NBPA and also founder of McCollum Heritage 91 Wine. And then Jerron Smith, co-founder and chief executive of Air Incorporated, as well as co-founder of Incubation Lab and Unanimous Media, that he has founded with four-time NBA champion Stephen Curry. And then last but not least, here on the big screen via Zoom, we've got Baron Davis. Baron, we're so excited to have you. Thank you so much for joining us. I know Baron's got some big things going on. He is a contestant right now on Dancing with the Stars. I know, clap it up for Baron real quick. That's huge. And Baron, I know this is a big week for you because this is double elimination, right? It's a big week. What's the experience been like for you so far?
It's been great. You know, coming from basketball, not dancing. I'm not somebody who dances at the club or, you know, I make two-step at the family reunion. But this was a whole different thing, you know, as far as the attention to detail, you know, being nervous about, you know, performing and doing something that is not natural to you. So it's been an incredible journey. It's been a humbling experience, but it's always good to be a part of, you know, community, also to be able to learn something. And I had an amazing partner in Britt. She was like a great coach and a great partner. So it just really taught me to appreciate people for their craft and their expertise. And being on the show has just opened up so many doors and opportunities for me that, you know, it's been incredible.
Well, you've been doing a great job. We've got a big audience here that's going to for sure put that vote in for you for this week. So while I have you here, Baron, we'll get started. So your company, Business Inside the Game, it serves as a hub for athletes and other creators. How did you identify this specific market need? And then secondly, what unique challenges and opportunities exist in building a business designed to serve the athletic community?
You know, when I was coming up, I think I'm older than CJ. I think so. I'm older than you, right, CJ?
Yeah, you're older than me.
Justin. I know, I'm joking. That's a joke. When I was coming up, you know, it was really, what sparked the idea was this documentary ESPN did, a 30 for 30 called Broke, and athletes going broke. And I said, well, not all athletes go broke. A lot of guys do well, and a lot of guys do really well life after basketball. And so can we start to build a platform that starts to champion the successes of athletes, to recognize the athletes that are doing well? And, you know, if we can build a community and a network around us, champion the entrepreneur, connecting with the investor, it would give us the opportunity to kind of own our own ecosystem. And so I started big as summits, experiences, and now we're moving in 2026 of launching our first app, Membership Club, where it's really all about information and a filter, funnel, and a flywheel for, I would say, athletes, entertainers who are always on the go. Now you can stop, park, network, connect with people, and get the information needed to, you know, make the right decisions in your business and professional career. So we like to think of ourselves as like a newer version of a LinkedIn meets Forbes.
Yeah, that's exactly what athletes need today, excuse me. And then I want to pivot to you, Josh. You're chairman and CEO of ArcNet Global. You have businesses that range from coffee to real estate and distilled spirits. Could you tell us more about that?
Well, first off, I don't like coffee.
Exactly. That's what we talked about that outside. So why coffee? How did you get it? Look at Barrett.
What?
I know, B. I know, man. And congratulations. Good luck out there. I did it too. But no, you got to win it.
No, we got to know. I want to know about how you got into coffee, because how can we trust a man that doesn't drink coffee?
I know, right? So crazy. So crazy. Because I'm the best taster when it comes to knowing something that I don't like. So therefore, you got to create something, right, for the people who don't drink. 65% of people in the world drink coffee, but the other 35% is like myself. Like, we gotta find something else. Got tea or matcha or something like that, right? But I wanna get involved with coffee too. So I found a way to make it to where I like it. So I started playing with flavors. We started to find out that, you know, you don't just drink what it is, that pumpkin spice and everything nice, you know. I never grew up off of that. I grew up off my grandma's sweet potato. So how can I puree a sweet potato and put it in a drink, and then you drink it and it tastes just like a sweet potato, but it's coffee? Different, right? So, thank you. Thank you. So we figured it out. And then the concept we came through, it was like, all right, so I just don't want a regular coffee shop. I want something that speaks for my past, my present, and my future. Nobody speaks to the past. So what we decided to do is come up with a concept that, you know, anybody can have a coffee shop or a cafe. If you go into a cafe, you'll go up there, place your order, they give you a little number, you go back, sit down, they call your number, you go up and get your food. Right? At an Omni Coffee and Eggs, some things happen that way, but not all things. But at a restaurant, you will go in, you'll see a host or greeter, they'll greet, they'll come in, you'll sit down at the table, they'll place your order with them, they'll go back and put it in the kitchen, and when the food comes out, they'll come bring it to you. Something happened in Omni Coffee and Eggs, but not all things. I like to say, when you come into an Omni Coffee and Eggs, you get greeted with a hello, Your Majesty. Welcome to the kingdom. And when you come to the kingdom, you'll go up and you'll place your order just like you do it in cafe. You'll go and sit down anywhere your heart desire in the kingdom. They all named and they all logos. So when you do that, you'll go and get your number, sit down, and the hostess, which is a baron or baroness, who's dressed up in fine garments from the 1700s, they'll take that, they'll go back when your food is ready, they'll bring it out to you in fine china on a silver platter.
Wow.
If you're done, they'll say, have a royal day. So we took the essence of a cafe and a restaurant, the best of both worlds, we brought them together, and we took the CAF and the first two letters of a restaurant, REA, and we brought them together, and we have our very own cafe.
That's fine.
So that's what that was.
I love that. I definitely got to try, I got to try some of this coffee because it seems like there's more of an experience and you really bring back that culture for the coffee sippers.
Yeah.
Okay, and then CJ, we'll get to you. So your portfolio, it includes diverse investments, private equity, real estate, and your wine brand that we hopefully get to try today at the reception. But how do you identify new investment opportunities and what criteria do you prioritize when evaluating them?
I think at this stage, my time is really precious. I'm married, I got 2 kids, so I figure out first, is this an active investment or passive? Like, how active am I going to be involved? How much time is it going to take for me to help build it if it's not already built? And how much work is it going to take for me to kind of sustain it at a high level if it's something that I can partake in, whether that's, you know, showing up for the brand, posting about the brand? Is it something that in which, like on the equity side, where it's just capital? Like, what is my involvement? Secondly, I look at, is it going to make the world a better place? Is it something I'm passionate about? And then thirdly, does it make me money? Obviously, we all like to make money, but if you're not passionate about it, if it doesn't, you know, make the world a better place, and if it doesn't make you happy and bring you joy, then chances are it's not something that I would want to be a part of. So those are the ways in which I've kind of critiqued deals, you know, I'd say the last 5 to 7 years, looking at my alternative investments, looking at what I currently have. I'm big on real estate. There's only so much land in the world, so that's very important to me. Obviously, my wife and I purchased 318 acres in Carlton, and we built out our own winery. We own and operate a nursery on property as well. So those are ways in which I feel like I'm making the world a better place while, you know, providing great service and great juice and great fruit. It's also a real estate play. I own the land, I have water rights, there's many different things I can do with the property, and it's an asset that I can hold and flip if I choose to. And then outside of that, I think it's just, you know, time is very, very precious. I play a sport. I was the president of the PA. I'm involved in a lot of different things. I'm into franchising, so I own restaurants and the land associated with it. So my time is precious. I just try to figure out, like, it's 24 hours in a day. If I can sleep for 7 or 8, you know, play with the kids, work out a few times a day, and get date night in, like, can I fit those things? And I think that's kind of how I've evaluated deal flow lately over the last 5 to 7 years.
Well, given the success that you have, it seems like you do a great job managing all those things in your life, so congratulations on that. And then Jerron, my fellow media buddy over there, so you've co-founded Incubation Lab, Unanimous Media, in partnership with Sony Pictures and Steph Curry. Tell us about how this venture came about and what is your strategic focus?
Yeah, absolutely. When we founded Unanimous, it really came from the insight that every athlete is effectively their own media company. You have the ability to create and disseminate content via so many modalities and social platforms, et cetera. But then to take that to the next level and scale it, you typically need partnership. In our case at the time, a studio partner was probably the most pertinent to really kind of scale in that vision, if you will. It took us 14 months to get that deal at Sony. There's only a finite number of studios that have the ability to scale content at that rate, but ultimately it really started with I think to CJ's point, really the passion, the notion around faith, family, and sports, and the ability to take those ideals, take those things you believe in, and create around those and then disseminate them globally to really kind of change the hearts and minds of people all over the world. Talk about the thought of kind of purpose over profit. Both are important, and I think when you can bring those two together, it's one of those 1 + 1 = 3 type situations. And Sony was the right partner to be able to effectively do that.
Okay, awesome. For time's sake, because we're on a crunch for time, I want everybody down the line. Baron, we'll start with you. And Baron, I need one sentence from you. One sentence, or one skill, that was transferable for you from your athletic career into the business world as a CEO. And that's all of you guys. But Baron, we'll start with you first.
I'd say curiosity. Being curious about my teammates, about the industry, learning the space that I'm in. So curiosity and research.
And Josh?
Well, you put us on the spot. That's tough.
You're NFL. There's a lot I know there's a lot for you that's transferable.
No, I'm just joking. Resilience. Because many times you want to quit. Many times it's just like, oh, this is not what we used to do. It's given to us, but obviously we got to put ourselves into that. But you got to work with a team. And like people, they're not, as I would say, adequately, like you have a sport, you do that sport every single day. But when you come into this, it's a whole nother different mindset. This is not physical, it's more so mental than anything. And so you have to get a team to rally behind a common goal, and that's an interest to you, not only to you, but to them as well, seeing that it's the interest for them to be able to win a ship, which is a championship, which is us, to be the #1 cafe in all of Atlanta, which we are. So that's the biggest thing to getting people together on the same court.
Awesome. CJ?
I would say time management. We all played a sport at some point in our life, and it's a time sport. You know it ends at some point, and how you prepare for it ultimately determines the success and the outcome for you. And then the other part of it is, I always say KYP, you gotta know your personnel. Everybody can't be coached the same, everybody doesn't learn the same, and everybody doesn't receive information the same. So understanding who you're talking to, where you're at, I think is extremely important, and I've used that in leading rooms and following in rooms and kind of figuring out that balance between success and failure, because the right person not being talked to the right way could lead to a disaster.
That's for sure.
First, I want to qualify to say I'm the only non-professional athlete on this stage. Stopped at college. Nonetheless, I would say emotion. The same way when you're playing a sport, my coach used to say in college, fatigue makes cowards of us all. So it doesn't matter how skilled you are, it doesn't matter how well you can shoot a jump shot. If you're tired, it kind of eliminates your ability to kind of live up to what you're capable of. And I would say in the kind of entrepreneurial space, when you're hiring people and you're managing people, emotion works a lot like fatigue. Emotion can supersede intellect, and ultimately when. If you're not accounting for the emotional aspects of the people that work for you, et cetera, you're not going to be able to get the most out of them. So I see that as the kind of greatest parallel.
Yeah, and you're not the only one. I'm there with you when it comes to not playing professional. We did a pretty good job for ourselves.
Indeed.
Yeah, but I wish we had more time. We're running low on time, but I just encourage everyone to continue to follow every single one of these gentlemen, because clearly they have been so successful in their transition from athletics into the world of being a CEO. So thank you all so much. Thank you, gentlemen. Baron, good luck this week. We want to see you next week. So everybody put those votes in for Baron. Thank you all for coming out.
All right.
That's the button.
Well, good afternoon. I am Jackie McDowell. I'm Senior Director for Copyright and Creativity here at the U.S. Chamber of Commerce. And welcome to what I affectionately refer to as the Nerd Panel. So on my right, we have Karen Temple, Senior Executive Vice President and Global General Counsel for the Motion Picture Association. Next to her, we have Ken Doroshow, Chief Legal Officer for the Recording Industry Association of America. And then Stan McCoy, General Counsel for the Entertainment Software Association. Policymakers around the globe are grappling with how to regulate AI, especially with respect to state patchwork legislation here in the US. So what are the key concerns and priorities for each of your respective organizations when it comes to AI?
Well, since you mentioned state, issues, I would say inconsistency across states. It would be very, create a very difficult and complex landscape to navigate, from a creative industry standpoint. So that's why, we support legislation like the No Fakes Act, for example, which is focused on digital replicas that would preempt state law. We want to make sure that whatever standards that are out there, they're clear and they're consistent across the board. And so we think that we need to have more of a federal legislation, when we're talking about things like digital replicas and others that impact AI in some way.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so the recording industry, we work very closely with Karen's industry as well on these same issues. I would say, the AI debate, the AI policy concerns are so vast. I spend about 100% of my time on AI these days and the other 50% on everything else. That's kind of how it works these days. And I think there are principally two major issues of concern to the recording industry. The first is, and many of you may know this already, there is a legal issue hanging out that is kind of the foundational to the whole AI discussion, which is the unauthorized use of copyrighted material to train an AI system, the purpose of which is to generate outputs that compete in the marketplace with the very material that was used to train the AI system. Is that copyright infringement or is it fair use? We think it's infringement. A lot of the AI development community thinks it's fair use. That's an issue that's being fought in at least, I think there are over 40 cases now that are filed throughout the country litigating that issue. We filed 2 of them against generative AI music companies that took our copyrighted works, the recording industry, I represent mostly the major record companies, took all of the major record companies' copyrighted material to build these AI systems that generate music that competes. It's on Spotify, it's on Apple Music, it's on YouTube, and people listen to it. And so we have a couple of those cases going, and that is it's a major policy initiative for us to establish and confirm that principle and then protect it. The other significant issue that we're very focused on in the AI world concerns, Karen mentioned the No Fakes Act, the question about unauthorized deep fakes and digital replicas of people, and the use of AI to create unauthorized versions of people. We are very invested in protecting our artists, our recording artists, from the vocal clones and deep fakes and all of the sort of abuses of AI that are fairly prevalent, and trying to get rules of the road. And as you say, there is a patchwork. The states have various degrees of protection for the right of publicity, which is a sort of related concept. Tennessee, we were instrumental in getting a new digital replica law, the Elvis Act, appropriately named for Tennessee. It is a patchwork. If we could get something at a federal level that works for our artists and for us, we would be happy to have uniformity. That remains to be seen, but the No Fakes Act is, in our estimation, the best balance of the competing considerations, and we're hopeful that that'll move forward.
AI innovation is absolutely critical to video games. I'll give you a couple of examples. If you played Madden NFL 25, you might have appreciated how the jerseys kind of flow and wrinkle like real fabric. That's proprietary AI technology developed by our member Electronic Arts, EA, that makes Madden. So that's a great example of how IP is the rocket fuel and innovation is the engine. Another great example is if you played Forza Motorsport on Xbox, not only can you play against Drivatars, AI avatar competing drivers, but also we've expanded the audience. Microsoft has expanded the audience for that game by using AI to enable audio description and haptics so that blind and visually impaired players can enjoy that game at the same level as fully sighted players. So that's expanding the audience for video games. So all of that is just to say, AI is really critical right alongside of intellectual property. So we want to live in a world where both of those things are enabled, AI and intellectual property. I share the concerns about disparate state regulation, but we have the problem that some of the federal legislation that's being proposed has been written without video games in mind, and we have special concerns in the video game sector that need to be addressed. So I think the more we can listen to the concerns of the video game industry alongside movies and music in crafting those legislative solutions, the better.
So we could certainly spend the entire time talking about AI, but there are a lot of other issues at play within the entertainment industries, one of which is also digital piracy, which has long been a significant problem for content industries. Many thanks to each of your organizations for playing a role in the Chamber's upcoming Digital Piracy Symposium, which is on November 18th. Where we'll explore this issue far more in depth than we can get into at this particular moment. But for now, can you tell us a little about the public-private partnerships and other best practices that your industries use in fighting digital piracy?
Yeah, I think, for us, the way that consumers have now are viewing sports especially has changed radically over the past decade. You used to have to be in one place on Monday night, I think. I didn't do football, but Monday night, watching it, you couldn't pause, you couldn't speed ahead, and, that was the one time you could watch a game. Now, of course, you're able to watch a game in a lot of different types of ways. We have deals with all of the streamers now in terms of providing that live stream access to a variety of sports content, whether that's Major League Baseball, NFL, NBA. And so that's a great thing for consumers because they are able to access sports wherever and whenever they want. Of course, with good things comes a lot of responsibility, and you have situations, of course, where piracy takes advantage of those new technologies as well. And so, for example, in 2024, we saw more than 28 million people were viewing the Super Bowl illegally, not through legitimate sites. So that's something that we have to try to stay ahead as technology advances and allows more access. We want to make sure that that access is legal access. And so that that is where we really need to work hard to have partnerships, as you said, with the chamber, but with the intermediaries who are, part of the entire internet ecosystem. So whether that is the search engines or the content delivery networks, other ISPs, we need to make sure that we're working with them so that access, again, is legal and not illegal. One of the things that we are really pushing for is to have, legislation like we have in about 50 other countries that will allow us to work with our intermediary partners to block access to illegal websites. And especially in the live content, that is something really critical to be done in the first 10 minutes because, once the stream is out and people are watching something illegally, they, that's it. And they're not going to want to go back and watch it again legally. So that is something that we really are working with our partners around the world to try to enhance, and certainly something that we want to see in the United States as well.
Absolutely. It's been a long-standing issue with the music industry as well.
Indeed. So. We were the canary in the coal mine, I think, back in the Napster days, which probably predates many of you. But so a similar story to Karen's, I think, in terms of our industry. There was, as you just mentioned, the early 2000s were a scary time for the music industry. Peer-to-peer piracy was rampant. And there was not yet the robust streaming market that there is now, and so it was really genuinely frightening. But technology to the rescue, right? All of our industries are very tech-focused industries, and we've dealt with technological disruption since forever. I mean, these are technology companies as much as they are creative content companies. So harnessing technology and building out a streaming marketplace, which is very successful and very robust, has addressed a lot of the issues, but like all things, piracy finds its way, and it morphs into different methods of piracy. I mean, we still have peer-to-peer piracy still is a problem for us, but you can go on and for $10 a month or $12 a month, you get your subscription, or there's a free tier for all of these services too. So there are legal options that are available that really go a long way to addressing the problem. But where we confront the most issues in piracy these days is a different form of piracy. It's known as stream ripping. If you go to YouTube, for example, you can stream to your heart's content any music video that you want. The terms of use are you're allowed to stream it, you're not allowed to download it, unless there's some paid subscription stuff that have some exceptions. Generally speaking, it is a streaming-only platform, but there are technologies that bypass protections, technological protections, to prevent downloads that allow the user to download, extract the audio portion from the video, download an MP3 version of the audio, and then you can build a library without paying for it, which is, of course, illegal. So we're dealing with that as a new form of piracy, not so new. We've been dealing with it for the better part of 10 years now or so. And then we also have a fairly significant concern about pre-release piracy. There's leaks of, an artist is working on their newest record, and it's not ready for release, but somehow, it's all digital. People are swapping, WAV files and everything in the studio, and somehow somebody gets a hold of an unauthorized version of the record before it's ready to be released. That's a huge problem for the artist. It's a huge problem for the label. So we work with GIPC and others to try to address that. And as Karen said, we are also actively cultivating partnerships with other players in the digital ecosystem at every level, whether it's platforms or CDNs or domain registries. We believe everybody has a role to play. The law kind of reflects that, but it's more, sometimes it takes a little pushing. And so we are very actively involved in trying to build the partnerships that get everybody invested in addressing these problems.
Yeah, it's like the old piracy problems never go away, and new problems just kind of pile on top of that. We just worked with the Atlanta field office of the FBI to shut down a traditional piracy service targeting video games. So props to the hardworking men and women of the FBI. We thank them for their support of the creative industries. On top of that, the challenges we have that are specific to video games include, unlawful trafficking in subscriptions to online services. We also have challenges of illicit trafficking in in-game items. We also have challenges of cheating in the games, basically hacking the games and then reselling those cheats online, which has become a surprisingly lucrative business. So attacking all of those diverse problems is a full-time job for a lot of people on my team at the ESA.
Well, thank you very much. I'll give you guys each about 20 seconds for some final thoughts, starting with Karen.
Well, just one, it's a pleasure to be here. Really appreciate all of you who've came and listened to all the panels. I think it's an exciting time for us in the entertainment industry. As I said, just the way that our, industry and the movie industry has changed over the past decade, going from, primarily theatrical to streaming to live streaming, really has opened up just a lot of different opportunities for creators. And now you can, often, start on a TikTok or on some Instagram and be, use that as a platform to later get a deal. And so it's just exciting to see how technology and creativity are working together to bring more to consumers.
Absolutely.
And I guess maybe it's appropriate I'll close on AI, since we can't stop talking about AI all the time. To echo a point that Stan made earlier, the recording industry is a big believer in the productive uses of technology, including AI. AI is a huge part of music production already. And so we are just hoping to foster an ecosystem where ethical uses of AI are promoted and unauthorized and unlawful uses are dissuaded or stopped. So the key is getting consent, whether you're using somebody's copyrighted works in the context of an AI system or an artist's voice or likeness, or in the case of, with many of the folks here today, an athlete's voice or likeness. Get permission. If you get permission, it's wonderful, but if you don't, it's a problem.
We're all about the power of play at the ESA. There are 2/3 of Americans who play video games on a regular basis. That's 205 million Americans. All of you in the audience who enjoy video games, you might be reassured to know that the cohort of people over 50 who enjoy video games is actually bigger than the cohort of people under 18 who enjoy video games. So feel free to embrace video games, even if you're over 50. You're in good company. It is a great industry. It is a big industry. Any of you who are parents know that video games were the most requested category of gifts in 2024 across both boys and girls. So this is a big audience we have to serve in this industry. We do it through a combination of licensing and copyright and innovation. And I think those two things can and do work well together, and we have a fit-for-purpose legal system that supports that. So we're very excited about what the future holds for this industry.
All right. Please join me in thanking this wonderful panel.
Hello, hello. Welcome, and introduce myself. I'm LaRon Rogers. I have the privilege of moderating and having a quick discussion with two amazing former athletes who are now in the business of sports, and look forward to their discussions. Up to my immediate right, Elena Beard, and then on the other side, Jason Wright. And we don't have a lot of time, so I'm going to dispense with the formal introductions. These two are very Googleable, and you can get more information than you probably want to know about them. So I just want to jump right into it since we're limited on time. And we're talking about women's sports, obviously. But, you know, women's sports has been in the spotlight for years, whether it be Serena Williams, women's Olympic soccer, the WNBA, women's professional soccer. What do you think has driven the interest in women's sports?
Please.
I love that you said that women's sports has been in the spotlight for years, because that is very much true. Yeah. People are just starting to just really take notice now. But I think there are multiple factors that are driving kind of this interest, but I think the one that I can pinpoint, being a player who played for 15 years in the WNBA and who has since made the transition to the business side of things and starting to understand the nuances of sports business in general, it's the women who are stepping into their power and owning it, owning their platforms and understanding that they are a business and treating it as such. And so whereas years prior, women maybe relied on the leagues to tell their stories, women are now starting to tell their stories, which is creating that interest from whether it's media, sponsorships, or the companies who are interested in just understanding more about women's.
I think you nailed it. I'll build on what Elena said. I mean, a lot of people call this the Caitlin Clark moment, and it is absolutely that woman deserves her flowers, but she is part of a larger movement.
Absolutely.
That's happened over years. Female athletes have 2 times the reach on social media platforms that male athletes do, by comparison. And it's because consumers and fans trust them more. They don't get in as much trouble, so brands are more willing to put their money behind them, and they can talk articulately across way more topics than your average male athlete can, and so there's more money to be made and more consumers that are interested in female athletes. And then there are 2 other factors that make me really excited to be running a private equity fund in women's sports right now. The other is, over the last 30 years, men's sports has professionalized. When I took over the Washington Commanders, it wasn't a highly professionalized organization. Now it really is. It runs like a business. It has good governance. That's happened in men's sports, and now women's sports can draft off of that. They don't have to go through that 30-year walk in the wilderness of more of a mom and pop operating model for their franchises. So real investment can come behind women's sports in this moment, and that wasn't present before. And then the third one you may be more familiar with. If you have kids between the ages of 5 and 18, you know how much money is going into youth sports. Right now, 43% of high school athletes are girls. That's the closest it's ever been to parity. That means we're 20 years into real money going into girls' youth sports. And so it's no longer a logical leap for the average family to say, I'll pay $400 or $300 for a ticket to an NWSL game or a WNBA game, where 20 years ago it would be like, oh, I don't want to do that. That's too much money. We're now accustomed to paying for high-quality girls and women's competition. And so we are in a new era, and we're not going back.
Well, how about the product is just fun to watch?
That
let's start there, right? And do you think that's a function of that we're now seeing it more because media is paying more attention to it, or the media rights? Are the media rights, from what you're seeing, are they driving the valuations of these things? What's the driver behind it?
I can take the first stab. And
yeah,
go ahead.
I mean, we can fight. I mean, we're competitors. Yes. We can go back and forth.
Exactly. So I would say media rights are up and to the right in every women's league. The current NWSL deal is 40 times the last one. It won't be 40 times again, but it'll be another big multiple of the last one. That we were just talking about this backstage. The WNBA is poised to have a huge growth in media rights. Right now, the WNBA has 15% of all NBA viewership, but only 3% of the media rights deal. So in the next one, if they even just get to parity, that's going to be a massive increase. And I would argue they should have a little more than parity because of the things I shared earlier about female athletes. But also, we have a generation of families, young millennials, Gen Z, who are the women's sports consumer. They don't see a difference between men and women's sports. It's no different to them. We've come over the transom on that. And so I think the fundamentals are a bit different.
Yeah, and I also believe that people are willing to do the work now because they see it as a business opportunity. I can just draw from my own experiences when I would say at the start of the WNBA season, I finally experienced a WNBA game as a fan, right? I needed to understand kind of the impact, the economic impact that a Caitlin Clark was having versus rather than just, reading the headlines and just going with the narrative. So I jumped on a plane, flew from DC to Indiana, and I wanted to see it. I wanted to understand what was the the effect that Caitlin Clark was having. I get off a plane, and people are getting off of a plane with fever, Indiana fever gear on. It was the Pacers in the NBA playoffs, but yet people were focused and more in tune with the Indiana fever. I walked through the city of Indiana, and I walked into the front of the arena as a fan, waited in line for 15 minutes, bobbed and weaved through the concourse of the field house. That helped me understand sort of the influence that this young woman brought to the game, and she only amplified it, right? And so it's been pretty powerful to watch it and see it in real time.
Yeah, and you know, we were talking backstage about the growth opportunities, right? There's a McKinsey report that says women's sports could generate $2.5 billion in value by 2030 in the United States. What factors and opportunities do you see in the women's sports that are different than men's sports right now?
I'll let go for it.
Okay. There's a lot of very cool things happening right now. The things we're interested in, we like the women's teams in the mature leagues, NWSL, WNBA, women's soccer or football in Europe as well. We also like the real estate opportunities around it. These are all holistic businesses. So the same way the Commanders are getting ready to build a live, work, play real estate complex around a stadium here in DC, that's the same thing can happen around women's venues as well. And there's real money in that, and it's good for communities. We like the leagues that are coming next in high participation women's sports. We own a league called League One Volleyball, which is an emerging volleyball league that'll get to the level of the NWSL and WNBA over time. And it's a $100 million youth volleyball business underneath, which is great. We like youth sports. And then we like all the businesses around it, the analytics businesses, the software businesses that really make everything professionalized the way that men's sports is professionalized. Those are all opportunities right now in the women's space. And then there's some more disruptive, cool things that are happening too.
I mean, not very much to add to that, but a point that I noted backstage is that when you think about the potential for growth with women's sports, but I can pinpoint sort of the evaluations of the WNBA, when you think about where the NBA was 15 years ago, I think the highest valued team was either the Warriors or the Lakers at $450 million, and the highest paid player in the league at the time was Kobe Bryant at $27 million. We now have the New York Liberty valued at $450 million, the Valkyries valued at $500 million, yet the highest paid player in the WNBA is making $250,000, right? So there's an insane, it is a problem, right? But that also speaks to sort of the trajectory of women's sports in general, and in particular the WNBA and the potential of it.
So as an investor, because both of you advise investors, what are you looking at that's a driving force, and where are the opportunities that you're seeing?
There are certain cities that lend themselves to healthy women's sports markets, and DC is actually one of them. This is a great example. It's higher education level, good public infrastructure, a city where the families live closer to the city center or within navigation of the city center. Diversity is still important, believe it or not, for driving business forward. And so there are a few factors that I really like, but in general, it's kind of pick your path, because the big funds are still not quite ready to look at women's sports as a viable asset class, but it is taking off like gangbusters. So just about anywhere you put your money is in a really good spot right now.
I'm curious as to why you would say that big private equity funds aren't ready to look at women's sports when it's having kind of the moment that it's.
It's just, it's actually a numbers thing. I've asked this of them.
Yeah.
So like, why wouldn't you do this? They say, we'll co-invest with you, but we're not ready to go there. Those funds are $9 billion, $10 billion. And so if they put money in this, even though it grows a bunch, it's not enough to move the needle for the rest of their fund. Now, on the next round, they'll buy from us. Right. That's exactly a great spot for us to be.
Well, it sounds like both of you are somewhat of the early adopters in advising businesses. Are there opportunities for other businesses to get into this industry and invest along with you all, or get in on some of these early opportunity deals?
I mean, I think the ecosystem for women's sports is prime, and it's open and ready to invite new consumers, obviously new fans, and to engage in the entire ecosystem.
I agree.
Yeah.
This is the growth area for all of sports. Our team in Denver, we own the Denver Summit FC, the NWSL team that will start playing 2026. We've got 15,000 season tickets sold already. It's an NWSL record ahead of that season even starting. only 11% of our fan base are season ticket holders in any other sport in Denver. Now, when we found that out, I thought the number was wrong. So I asked the WNBA team that shares their arena with the NBA team, is owned by the same ownership group as the NBA team. Only 8% of their fans are season ticket holders for the NBA property. So for those that are wanting to make money in sports and you have businesses that can support sports or entertainment, this is where sports is growing. These are the new consumers. And so it's a bet on the future and faster growth trajectory to be here.
Last question, just as an asset class, over the next 10, 20 years, what do you think a reasonable multiple is for the industry?
I mean, right now they're trading at pretty high multiples in the W and others. I don't think they will deflate too much. They're right now trading on like about 12 to 14 revenue multiples. I don't think it will come down from there. I think we will see a $1 billion women's franchise in the next 5 years. Yeah. I think we will see that for sure. But more importantly, I think we're going to see some models come together for these leagues that completely disrupt and change the dynamics, because the women have more player power, and I think something is going to shift in various sports to put something out there that's really new and innovative and the fans like better.
Well, thank you so much. I know it's a very quick conversation. Thank you for welcoming us.
Thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is Adrienne Williams, and I'm the chairwoman of the Black Entertainment and Sports Lawyers Association. I have the pleasure of moderating this panel this afternoon, so welcome to Game On, Leading Sports and Entertainment Organizations in a World of Change. Please join me in welcoming Max Siegel, CEO of Track and Field and owner of Rev Racing, Michael Winger, president of Monumental Basketball, and Paxton Baker, chairman of the Washington Nationals Founding Partners Group. So without further ado, we'll jump right in. The sports and entertainment world is constantly evolving. What are the most significant disruptors you are currently facing in your respective organizations? And how do you strategically plan for a future that's still being written?
Wow. Should I take that?
Yes, please.
I'd say for us, the biggest disruptor right now would be social media. Social media is a huge opportunity, but it's also a challenge when you're managing proprietary information, you're managing your brand. It also is challenging when you're trying to control the distribution of your intellectual property. So while it's a great asset, it's also a disruptor that you have to work around and be aware of that.
I think for us, one of the disrupting challenges that we face is the constant demand for sports-related content. Live sports it's a huge business, it's a huge industry, and there's a lot of fans around the world that want sports-related content, whether it's the live game itself or something affiliated therewith. And continuing to find that content, continuing to drive experiences for fans worldwide who want access to the athletes, who want access to the games, whether it's through specific content, a product, some other creative provision that we can come up with. It's hard satiating the demand for pro sports content.
Well, thank you. I would say the demand to win, the demand and the expectation. And we won the 2019 World Series, ran into COVID right on the other side of it. And we had a great team, and when we came through the process at the end of it, we ended up having to, because of contractual reasons and everything from losing Bryce Harper to Schwarber and everybody else who was on the other side of our World Series run, to rebuild that and to come back. And so the fans have that expectation that every year you're going to win and either be a playoff team, but really everybody wants you to win the World Series or whatever the prize happens to be. And that's a very difficult thing to do, but that's the game.
Well, challenges and disruptions bring lessons. So what lessons have you learned from navigating difficult or uncertain periods, and how has that experience shaped your long-term growth strategies?
Well, to be as prepared as possible and to have a good farm system and to be constantly on the lookout for who you want to sign, how you want to build that team. We have 9 farm teams. And so to meticulously, as best as possible, build through that on a regular basis and always be developing talent.
For us, one of the things that we've discovered, or I've discovered throughout my career, is scenario planning is really important. And that is, to the extent that you can think of something happening, just plan for it happening and hopefully it never happens. So whatever those scenarios are, jot down those blue sky, those wild scenarios, and spend 10, 15 minutes planning for it. Secondly is, I think if you have a selfless intent in what you're trying to accomplish, chances are you'll be able to meet that challenge head on. I think if you're selfless and you're doing things for the right reasons, you'll ultimately attract enough good teammates to the cause and overcome that issue. And then the third, of course, is having the good teammates.
Yeah, I'd start off by saying having a great team. Having a team that has a diverse skill set, the ability to pivot on a moment's notice, but most importantly, I think it's important to remember why you do what you do every day and to keep that at the forefront. If everyone on the team understands what your mission is, what your goals and your objectives are, how they contribute to the success of it, you can kind of navigate, whether it's choppy waters or not, but having a great team is essential to navigating that.
Thank you. And how do you balance capitalizing on short-term opportunities with making long-term investments?
I can start. Most of our long-term investments within Monumental Sports, we bake in an element of flexibility for those unforeseen opportunities. And to the extent that our company was founded by an entrepreneur, and our governors are, Ted and Zach, who are entrepreneurial, I think the entrepreneurial spirit is by definition flexible and nimble, while at the same time making sure that there's a robust long-term strategic plan and investment program.
For us, especially during the Olympic cycle, there are short-term opportunities that approach as you get close to a major games. But the reality is if you get in with a partner and you prove your value, we've been able to convert some of those short-term opportunities into long-term partnerships. And I think it's really about alignment, understanding what the expectation is, in the relationship that you're in, and then over-delivering on that value. So the short-term opportunities present an opportunity to upsell to create a long-term partnership for us.
So I would concur with my colleagues and say that the development of things is always on your mind. One, developing your internal leadership group, and as I mentioned just a little bit earlier, as far as developing talent along with that, and then as well would be upgrading facilities. So there's capital need all the time to kind of be building out some part of it. You have the major league part where everybody sees it, but the minor leagues are just as important as far as the developing talent and also developing those facilities and having to revamp them on a continual basis. So kind of internal infrastructure things that are there.
Speaking of this, Paxton, as a founder of a Major League Baseball team, your experience with large-scale capital investment and infrastructure, as you just kind of referenced, is key. What advice do you have for attracting and securing investment in new sports ventures, and how has the rise of institutional investment and new asset classes changed that process?
I think the core of pretty much any business and any opportunity is relationships, and developing relationships with like-minded people, and also like-minded people that are well-funded from a capital side, partners with money. So I think the institutional investors have certainly brought that along with that. But in that situation, generally, it's one person that's representing a group. Like when you have a group of people come in on an investor side, so that one person is representing potentially 3, 4, 5 different groups that have come into their ownership group. So having a quality relationship with them, developing expectations that are somewhat realistic. Everybody wants to dream big, but on like winning a championship, so what are the 5, what are the 10 things that we need to do to kind of get there collectively together? And working on those every day. Like, I can't overemphasize the importance of relationships and kind of dreaming collectively and then putting the resources together to help you get there.
Thank you. Max, you have a track record of driving significant financial growth in both a governing body and a NASCAR racing team. How do the financial strategies and capital needs differ between owning a professional team like Rev Racing and leading a nonprofit like USA Track and Field?
I think the misconception of the nonprofit is that we are a charity. You know, we have tax-exempt status, but we function as a commercial enterprise. 70% of our revenue to support the Olympic team comes from commercial partnerships. About 10% comes from a high-performance grant, and the rest of it is from other. So when we wake up every day, we have to be innovative as though we were a, private, for-profit enterprise. I'd say the difference between the NASCAR team that I own and the governing body is there's a lot of capital that is required for equipment, facilities, transportation, moving people around on the NASCAR side. We spend tons of money on the governing body side in high performance, whether it's sports medicine, sports science, developing intellectual property, supporting coaches. And there's, there are a lot of logistics that go around. We just came back from the World Championships in Tokyo. We had 250 people, 140 athletes, 60 personal coaches, medical staff, our staff, to compete on that stage and be in Tokyo, Japan for 2 weeks. So, they both require a lot of capital. There are a lot of moving parts. I think the difference on the NASCAR side would be really in the parts and pieces and equipment, and then the human capital on the national governing body side is really essential.
Thank you. Michael, you have been at the forefront of team building and asset management in the NBA for years. How do you assess the value of a franchise or an asset within your organization, and what financial metrics matter most when making big decisions?
I think at the end of the day, you're worth what your investors tell you you're worth, and what your partners tell you you're worth, and what your fans tell you you're worth. And so the decisions that we make on a daily basis, we try to peek through the perspectives of all of our stakeholders, the investors, the partners, our sponsors, our fans, our players. And so to the extent that they continue to show out for us and support us, I mean, that's sort of the metric. To the extent that they have, to the extent that we have satisfied their fandom, their needs for an ROI, we have investors that keep coming and wanting to be part of Monumental Sports. And I think that the demand just to be part of what we're building, whether it's on the player side, the facility side, the infrastructure side, or the investment side, I think the metric is pretty simple. It's just the demand to be part of what we're building.
Thank you. This next question is for any or all of you. Technology is transforming how fans consume and interact with sports. What new technologies are you most excited about, and how are you leveraging them to build fresh fan bases and keep existing ones engaged?
I'm particularly excited about the future of merging player tracking technology with fan-specific content, fan-specific content demand. So personalized content. I see a future where, with all of the advances in player tracking technology, we marry that technology with individualized, bespoke fan content, figuring out how to see a play from a player's perspective, or draw up a play in anticipation of that play happening. Being able to be coached as a fan through your television or through your device, where you see a particular play unfold on the left side of your screen, and you see either the play call prior to it happening, or you see some kind of an image from the helmet cam or the coach's cam, whatever the case may be, and just merging those things over time. I think that not only can our fans be entertained, I think they can be coached. And I think that teaching the game through technology on your phone, on your TV, on your tablet, I'm really excited about the future of that.
Thank you.
We have two pieces of technology well, AI is really exciting in terms of coaching and training. Two examples, Noah Lyles will tell you that He was able to win the gold medal in the 100-meter dash with our high-performance team using technology to work on his start. And we just had a world champion bronze medalist in the decathlon that his weakest event was the javelin. And working with his coaches through technology, improving his athletic performance, you know, it's rewarding when you can see the direct result of how you apply that technology to that. So for us, it's exciting in terms of athletic performance and biometrics and the athlete tracking. The one other thing that was exciting is, you know, during an event, you put a heart monitor on the mother of an athlete or the father, and you can see how excited and you know, and how much engaged they were in that performance. So those things are fun from both a fan engagement perspective, but also from an athletic performance perspective.
So I concur with my colleagues on the opportunity. We're doing a lot with AI as well, and baseball kind of started the whole piece of analytics for the top 4 sports. So we continue to go down that path. But I'd rather not sugarcoat and say, oh, it's really difficult. Like running organizations like this are really difficult. As Michael said, the fans can tell you how you're doing, and you're out front every single day. You either won a game or you lost a game. And for baseball, the greatest athletes hit 3 out of 10. You're incredible if you can hit 4 out of 10 times. So you're out front of everybody on a daily basis, and they're judging your work and your worth and making a decision if they want to pay for it. So there's a lot to get right, and we work at it, all the components of it every day.
Thank you. One final question for each of you. Looking back at your careers, what has been your most challenging moment as a leader, and what did you learn from that experience?
Wow. Mike?
It's right now. And it's not a moment, it's a lifestyle. I have a very hard time balancing the need to be available, present, the compass for an organization. I mean, you can only be a compass for something if people can see the compass. And so being available, being present, but then also being a husband, being a dad, taking care of myself, all of these things have, every choice you make has an opportunity cost of 5 or 6 choices you didn't make. And I'm a people pleaser at heart, and it's been exceedingly difficult to choose something over here at the cost of these handful of things over here. And how am I dealing with it? I don't know.
I think the most challenging thing in the world for me is to change the culture of an organization, especially a mature organization that has been used to doing things the same way for a very long time. And when you disrupt that, I think that I underestimated the pushback that you get and the resistance that you will get despite the clarity of the goal that you're trying to reach. I think it's important to communicate clearly what the goals are. I think building relationships, even with those who resist change, is really important. Having a really strong team, having ambassadors out there to be places where you aren't, really kind of help. But that's really tough, and it's tough on you emotionally. It's tough on you personally. But you know, I have really focused on the saying that if you know why you do something, the how doesn't really matter. And so waking up every day knowing why you go to work, why you do it, you focus on that, and it kind of takes you through those turbulent times. But changing the culture is really the toughest thing that I've encountered.
So I'll end quickly by saying the Washington Nationals were the Montreal Expos baseball team. Anybody remember the Expos out there? Okay, all right. They were one of the most losing organizations in baseball for years, and MLB took them over in receivership, ended up floating it to 6 or 7 different cities on moving the team there. The DC Council and Mayor said, hey, we'll put up the money for the stadium. We were fortunate enough to win the bid to get the stadium. We then inherited a losing organization that had decades of losing with the goal of turning it around. We went from the team moving here in 2005 to winning our first National League East championship in 2012. We won in 2012, 2013, won again in 2015, 2016, but each year we got knocked out in the first round of the playoffs, and it was heartbreaking. Losing baseball is losing any sport, but I'll say for baseball, is overwhelmingly difficult and heart-crushing. Seeing another team in particular, so for 3 of those times, 3 of the 4 division titles, we saw other teams celebrate on our field, and that really hurts. So then we finally break through, win the World Series, and then COVID happens, and there was no season the next year, so we had no victory lap at all. It was no fans, and there were 60 games instead of 162 games. Rebuilding from all of that, then having to turn over our team and build it. So putting things back together and helping your culture, that's where we are now, regardless of what the win and loss record is, to see our players get better. We think we have a great young team now, and our hope is that we get back into the playoff run next year. But overcoming losing, what I guess would be the team that the parts that's the hardest about is, like, it's heart crushing to lose. And we when we finally get a group of players, I think it's just as important for somebody to hate to lose versus loving to win. So we got a group of people now that hate losing. So that would be my piece.
Well, thank you. Please join me in thanking Paxton Baker, Michael Winger, and Max Seaver. Thank you, Anna.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. So we only have a short period of time on this interview today, but today what we're going to be talking about is not only faith, but the importance of storytelling. And to the right of me, I have the one and only Bishop Eric Davis. How you doing today, Bishop?
Doing well, man, doing well.
So my first, you've had an interesting background. In the past, you went from electrical engineering to ministry to entrepreneurship, even doing philanthropic work. But now you've gone on a new journey. So what inspired you to go on this journey in terms of telling stories, but not only doing so, but using animation to do it? And why have you been inspired to tell stories towards the new generation?
On a trip to Africa back in 2016, I had an epiphany. It was after Ebola. We were in West Africa. We have, churches there. And I engaged those children who were the orphans of a lot of the people who had been killed. And when I went over to Ghana, the night that I had gotten over to Ghana, a rooster was crowing outside my window. Nobody else in the room in the house heard it but me. And I was inspired to get up and write. So I wrote this story about a rooster, came home and everybody was laughing at me, but my attorney took the book to a pretty large educational company, and they wanted me to write a series for them.
Okay.
Ended up writing 32 books, expanded into my own company. And as a result of that children's illustrated book series, a partner of mine came to me in 2020. He had a portfolio of animated movies, and we decided to merge our companies and go farther. And so in 23, we were granted by the family of Friz Freleng, the original creator of Pink Panther, to do the new Pink Panther in 3D. And then we have our own content as well, and we're producing our own movies. And then the last thing was, in the middle of COVID, we decided to become our own Pixar.
Okay.
So we built out 50,000 square feet of production studio, animated in production studio, and that's actually been expanded now. So really? That's a short version of it.
And we're in where? South Carolina?
South Carolina, Columbia, South Carolina.
Okay. So, quick question for the audience. Raise your hand if you love watching movies, films.
Yeah.
Okay. Raise your hand if you enjoy watching animated films. So as you can tell, a lot of people enjoy watching those type of films, but why do you think animation is the perfect way, one of the best ways in terms of conveying a message, not only to people, but specifically the new generation?
It's not limited. It crosses all genres. You can go anywhere in and out of the world. It's imaginative. It can be funny. It can be emotional. It just is the perfect scenario if you have the resources to do it.
Right.
It is also very lucrative. It is the most lucrative form of filmmaking in Hollywood.
Really? Can you explain that? Because we talked about it backstage, but you would think it costs a lot to do an animated film, especially when you have to draw frame by frame. So how is it lucrative in that sense?
The most successful films in Hollywood, 98 and 97% respectively, are animated and black films because they focus on predominantly one genre. So if you make a black film, it's predominantly a black genre, though others will watch it. But when you focus on an animated film, it's one genre, children. Now, parents have to go and take those children, but it's focused on children globally. So you look at, some of the most successful black films, maybe $100 million. Most successful animated films, $2 billion.
With a B?
With a B.
Okay.
And the number 100 animated film, if you go down the list, is probably $500 million.
Wow.
Yeah, so it's very lucrative, and Hollywood knows that. And this is, I think, the new frontier for black filmmaking, animation.
Now, one of the things that we have to talk about is the money side of things. Yeah. Obviously, it's not cheap creating these films. So as a faith-based animator, how have you been able to overcome the challenges in terms of raising capital, especially when you're in an industry that's dominated by big companies?
Well, one, as I said, we became our own Pixar. We own our own content. We own our own studios, so we can create our own content, which drives the cost down. We create our own network of investors, from micro to macro. And just like any other film, you have to find those who are willing to invest in it. But believe it or not, there are a lot of people out there who see the viability of that genre of filmmaking.
Now, in this space specifically, what do you see happening in the future? Where's your vision? Where do you think it's headed? How big do you think you can grow in terms of animation?
African American Pixar.
Okay.
This is why we own our own content. We have our own, as I said, portfolio. And young people like you who are creative, talented, will have an opportunity to move into that space with us to continue making high quality films for a long time. And I think that it's the new frontier.
So I have another question for the audience. How many here are artists, in a sense? Love drawing, making music, or creating art? Okay, a few. We have some people here. So for those that, they may have thought about making their way into the art space, but specifically being an animator, what could they do to actually get started to either A, work in that industry, B, invest in it, or even C, support it? How would they go about doing so?
Well, one, I would say, get familiarized with AI, because it is definitely moving into that space at a rapid pace, and it's not going to slow up. But in terms of moving personally into the space, studios like ours, there are more studios now that are beginning to come out of the independent genre that are making quality content. The distribution is going to be the key, where you'll begin to see those emerge on the scene a little bit more frequently. And that's one of the hurdles that we're crossing right now, as we are even looking at, widespread global distribution of our animated film that we have coming out probably late spring, early summer, called Hiptoons.
Okay, talk more about that.
Hiptoons is kind of it's a parody on hip hop culture and rap, satire, but it kind of puts you in the mind of Sing 1, Sing 2. Now, note, Sing 1, I think, did about 687 million. Sing 2 did right at 500 million. So when you start talking about filmmaking from our community that starts moving into those kind of spaces, it's huge. And the content, we have the content is there. The market is there. We just have to get to the market.
It's the market. Okay. Well, we're running out of time, ladies and gentlemen, so please give it up one last time for Bishop Davis. Thank you. Yes, sir. Let us wait.
Uh-oh.
Y'all give it up for Boris Kodjoe.
How's everybody doing? Can you hear me?
Listen, I want to jump right in this because I know we're going to go to this reception with DJ Camel in a minute.
Okay.
But Africa, we talk about the business of sports and entertainment. Yeah. 1.5 billion people, projected to be 2.5 billion by 2050, average age 19 years of age. It is a new world economy. You talk a lot about the persistent one-dimensional narrative of Africa and how we change that. What do we do?
Well, okay, you got to first look at what started this whole mess, right? In terms of this one-dimensional stereotypical narrative. You have to go back in history and realize that back in colonial times, these European countries decided that Africa was backwards so they could justify conquering. And that's where it started, and it led to Western media controlling the narrative and basing the narrative on aid dependency and famine and war and corruption. And now it's time that we counteract that narrative. And the way to do that is by creating content and by owning that content value chain and being very intentional about talking about pride and excellence, not about famine and poverty.
You talk a lot about not aid, but investment. How do we drive more investment to the continent? I mean, I know it's connected to the narrative, but to get more companies doing business on the continent and investing in Africa in so many sectors.
I think part of it is demystifying some of the things that investors think about when they talk about investing in Africa. I mean, there's so many there's so much misinformation out there, starting with Africa being too risky, unstable, too complex to navigate. They're focused on said conflicts and corruption rather than the fundamentals. And the fundamentals are, as you said, Africa has the youngest population in the world. Africa has a thriving middle class. Africa has three of the fastest growing economies in the world. Africa has a great, fast growing digital connectivity. And of course, Africa has a huge consumer spending that's estimated to be in the trillions of dollars. So when you look at that and you look at the fact that the private sector has sort of taken a lead in investing in sectors like fintech, creative economies, and renewable energy, that's where we start. Governments in Africa are slow to respond. They're usually reactive. They usually base all their investments on natural resources. I think the private sector's role is to de-risk innovation, to document viability, and to attract capital, and to nudge or force governments into adjusting policy and building infrastructure. So it's kind of a partnership that we are looking at when we're talking about investing in Africa.
Yeah. And I've been to the continent many times, but had the fortunate pleasure to travel with you in the Full Circle. You got to tell folks the inspiration behind Full Circle. It literally was life-changing. As many times I've been to the continent.
Full Circle started with a phone call. The then president of Ghana, Nana Akufo-Addo, asked if we could help curate an event celebrating the Year of Return in 2019. So we brought in about 250 leaders of business, entertainment, and sports to celebrate our collective heritage and reconnecting with our ancestry. I think that the disconnect between the diaspora, more specifically African Americans, and the continent is the root to a lot of the issues that we're facing here in this country as African Americans, because there's a lack of identity, there's a lack of connectivity. It's very refreshing to see African Americans go back to the continent, reconnect with their what I call superpower, because it's more than just a visceral feeling. It's literally identity. So what happened was we took Ghana from 40,000 tourist visa to 1.2 million in 1 year and added $1.6 billion to the economy. It's now $10 billion in the last 7 years. 5,000 African Americans are moving to West Africa permanently every single year now. So the numbers speak volumes. You know, quality of life, education, healthcare, those are all sectors that have been completely ignored and mischaracterized in Africa, and now people actually experience it for themselves.
Yeah. And listen, we want to do more with you in that regard. I want to go back to something else you said, which I think is really important, and that is owning the content value chain, because I'm not sure that we've accomplished that in America yet. But how did we get to that? That's a big deal.
Well, you know, content value chain, there's 3 issues. There's capitalization, there's infrastructure, and there's distribution. And as long as we believe that we have to be given the right to own our own content value chain, it's not going to happen. We have to claim it. We have to do it. There's no reason why we can't do it. The numbers speak for themselves. You mentioned 1.5 billion people. We have 600 million in the diaspora. The diaspora is the 3rd biggest country in the world after China and India. We have 900 million smartphones on the continent. High-speed internet is growing at a rate 3 times faster than anywhere else in the world. Digital distribution is something that is going to be immensely important when we're talking about Africa. So doing partnerships with the Vodafones and the MTNs of the world to get straight to consumer distribution. And also up-leveling productions, helping creators to distribute that content outside of Africa is part of it as well. Now technology has paved the way for us to be able to translate any language in 200 other languages with the perfect sync of your mouth. That also allows for global awareness and distribution. Plus, you all got to remember, we as Africans and people of African descent are the original influencers. We are the original cultural influencers who have been copied and mimicked for centuries. And we have to step into that power, and we have to do it by owning every single piece of the content value chain. That is pooling resources together, that is building studios, that is you know, making sure we have tax incentives on the continent so foreign investment comes pouring in. I'll give you another number. I'm a numbers guy. Average return on foreign direct investment in Africa is 11.4%. The global average is 7%. Isn't that enough? Isn't that enough? Right? So again, awareness is everything, and my mentor says there's no awareness when there's no healing. I want to say, let's start with the healing. Let's hurry it up so we can get to the awareness.
And can't we start with some of that even in America? I'm struck when I travel around the country, and I hate using these terms, Black Americans, Africans, Nigerian, because we're all the diaspora. But I'm struck by how we don't know each other. You're Ghanaian, you're German, you're American, but I don't see, how do we bridge that gap within our own country to get Nigerians and Black?
You know, first of all, everybody's African. That's right. East Africa is the cradle of humanity. That's where it all started. So everybody's African. And even though you might have not been born in Africa, Africa was born in you. That's right. And that counts for everybody here in this room. And that's number one. And number two is, you know, realizing that there's, like I said earlier, there's an immense power in reconnecting with your roots and your ancestry and understanding that your history didn't start 400 years ago. That alone is a realization that is very important for everyone. You are not descendants of slaves, you are descendants of royalty, you are descendants of kingdoms, vast civilizations. Now, that change in awareness is very, very important, and we have to make sure that we don't forget, and we have to make sure we teach that to our children.
Final question. We're out of time.
That's it.
We call.
That was
we could go all day long.
Rapid response. Okay.
But we kind of call this thing the Africa.
I flew here for 8 hours for 7 minutes.
But it's the quality of your content.
I demand more time.
And you got more time.
Are you not entertained?
Y'all want some more time with Boris? All right, we'll get some more time. It's my event, so I can have more time.
Ooh.
But we kind of call this thing the Africa we don't see. What is the Africa that you hope we will see in the next 10, 20, 30 years?
Wow, okay. Well, again, stats say that 40% of the world's youth is going to be in Africa by 2030. 30% of the world's population is going to be in Africa by 2050. Nigeria's GDP is going to be 15 trillion by 2050. So just those numbers alone should give you an indication that if you're not in Africa by now, in terms of investing in Africa, visiting Africa, 3-5 years from now, it's going to be too late. So the whole idea of emerging markets, it's also a very stereotypical way to describe Africa. Africa is a booming market right now, 54 different economies with unique differences that successful investors understand. Every country is different. You don't do business in Switzerland like you do in Serbia, and it goes the same with Africa. But it also comes with huge advantages. So I encourage you to come. I encourage you to visit. I encourage you to do business. We're here for you to help any way we can. Yeah.
Now, this is my final question. But so people know you for many roles, and you're not only an actor, you're an investor, you're a philanthropist. But any insight, any big projects you're working on, or what's the next big thing for Boris?
The most exciting project we've been working on for 2 years now is we just launched a big content fund in partnership with the Frexim Bank, and the goal is to change the narrative, to normalize blackness, and to create or support creative industries on the continent by way of producing 100 movies over the next 12 years, building a studio, investing in content-related AI, and doing many co-productions with many major studios around the world.
Outstanding. Any final comments? You get the last word, my brother.
Thank you very much, everyone, for coming. Appreciate it.
All right. Boris Kodjoe, guys.
It went to 5. Good afternoon and welcome. My name is Chinyere Hubbard. I'm the president and CEO of the DC Chamber, and I'm excited to moderate this timely panel, especially as DC is now the official sports capital of the United States. Yes, give it up. Okay, so today we're exploring the dynamic intersection of sports, entertainment, and business across Africa, a continent where 60% of the population is under 25 and increasingly connected digitally. So we have two exceptional panelists with us today who bring unique perspectives to this conversation. Bernard Lagat, a 5-time Olympian who made the journey from rural Kenya to global athletic stardom and is a former, and now coaches the next generation. And Aline Varr, founder of Capital Pulse, who is at the forefront of connecting Africa's culture richness with investment opportunities. Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you.
So, Aline, you're right here. I'm going to start with you. Through Capital Pulse, you're working at this fascinating intersection where Africa's incredible cultural output, It's music, storytelling, athletic prowess meets serious business opportunity. So this requires seeing both the heart and the spreadsheet. So how do you connect your passion for the continent's cultural capital with its business potential?
It's a great question. Thank you. Africa's cultural capital is probably the most undervalued asset class. We are in a space where, for me, as a artist and as a strategist, I sit right in the nexus of culture meets capital, right? So it is a innate part of who we are. It is something that we don't try to create to be able to make a revenue. So it is booming right now between the common Nigeria, Kenya, South Africa hubs of culture. The opportunities are endless. Nollywood in Nigeria alone, a booming one Nollywood film can bring 30 to 40% ROI. That's not just art, that's alpha, right? So being able to zoom in on those opportunities is imperative because it's innate.
Yes, that's great. Bernard, your story is remarkable, and your experience running to and from school, a common story for many elite Kenyan distance runners. And tell us how it shaped your athletic ability. What about that early experience instilled a love for you for running?
Thank you very much. Yes, growing up in Kenya, I was just basically like any other kid, just running to school back and forth like that. And so that shaped my my love for sport. And in fact, I grew up being an endurance athlete because of that. And so that love, I transitioned that into my career later on with the influence from my sister, who was a professional herself. And so that she made a great, she was a role model for all of us in the family. And so transitioning from basically a young boy running barefoot to school and stuff like that until I made that my career was something that I attribute that to the support that I got from my sister and the family.
Good. Now, Aline, we hear a lot about resource challenges facing athletes in Africa, but there are likely deeper systematic issues at play. So what are the most attractive opportunities would you see and investment opportunities within sports and entertainment ecosystem?
Yeah, I'm going to take it a step further and just point out the Lusophone and the Francophone countries in Africa, right? In the United States, we have a tendency to go to Ghana, nothing against Boris, cool. So Ghana, South Africa, Kenya, because of the language barrier. But the industries in film, in music, in different types of creatives, in Angola, in Cape Verde, in Mozambique, in Senegal, in Cote d'Ivoire are booming right now. And also in sports as well. So we have to be able to look at, and these countries are also under legal and financial frameworks that connects them. So that is also an opportunity from an investment that has a legal framework that supports diaspora and international investments.
And Bernard, what do you think the significant obstacles are that are at play that young athletes can face today in Africa?
I think the most important one is basically opportunity. So the talent is there, but opportunity isn't. And so when I looked at Africa as an athlete that represented the continent, I see opportunities that are out there that athletes get. Mental health, we have amazing facilities. Sports themselves are Eurocentric. Athletes from Kenya or Nigeria, everywhere, we just go to Europe for competitions, but we have everything that the continent has. We have places to put the stadiums. We have infrastructure. We have the talent. Now we have innovation. And I believe those are the challenges that face Africa in terms of having the meets and sports in the continent itself rather than us going outside, which we have the potential. It's not just anything else other than just having the investment in it.
And with that potential, I want to bring this closer to some of my DC Chamber audience members who are here in the room. Many small and medium-sized businesses may not realize these opportunities. So how can small businesses like these in DC at the DC Chamber of Commerce connect to sports and entertainment opportunities in Africa?
Well, I'm going to go ahead and say that the diaspora is natural syndicators, right? We have to be able to leverage the fact that their corridor between Lagos and Salvador de Bahia, between Cabo Verde and Boston, between Dakar and DC, which are actual sister cities under Sister City International, you can leverage those blended finance, structured vehicles with support of philanthropy and private sector actually creates a capital stack with risk capital that protects diaspora investments and that gears them. So I would leverage that, yeah.
And also, in addition to that, we believe also in the sports world, sports makes up the biggest investment in Africa, and I think that is the area that we haven't really gone deep into it. And I can imagine, like, if we can invest in the infrastructure, supporting the athletes, supporting the talent that is there, we can actually grow the continent. And that also, you're looking at the population approaching a 2.5 in the next few years. That is market. It's not just a statistic. And so when we invest in that, knowing that the sport thrives in Africa, we saw what soccer did, World Cup in South Africa did. Major development was done after that. And so we believe that when we put resources in Africa, you're going to see the results.
And we could go on, but before we wrap up, I know the clock is ticking, and we want to end on a forward-looking note. So both of you are obviously deeply invested in Africa's future. Bernard, you through developing athletic talent, Aline through modernizing capital for growth. What drives your optimism, and what is your biggest hope for the future of sports and entertainment across the continent of Africa?
First of all, for us not to be a provider of talent, but to be at the root of our investment and to own our investments. Culture is an asset that is everywhere in the world. So I would like to see us be at the forefront of owning and being at the table of how Africa is open for business.
Great. And for me, I just want to see the narrative shift into positivity, where Africa is not just only for aid, conflict, fragile, risk. I want us to turn that into positive, where we're seeing innovation, we're seeing talent, and we're seeing the resilience of the people. That is what I would like to see going forward in Africa.
Well, thank you very much, Aline and Bernard, and let's give them a round of applause. Thank you very much.
All right. How we doing, folks? Hanging in there? So we've saved the best for last.
Who?
You.
Oh, I was like, who's coming out?
So I'm so happy to have a conversation right now about historically black colleges.
Sure.
And I'm happy to do it with legendary actor Darryl Bell here. Give it up to Darryl Bell, ladies and gentlemen. So you've been a part of some very incredible projects.
Yes.
From Spike Lee's School Days to A Different World.
Yes.
And all of them have had a meaningful impact on the culture, particularly on historically black colleges.
Yeah.
What did it mean for you at the time to be a part of those projects? And how do you think you and your cast helped shape the narrative around HBCUs across the world?
Well, speaking specifically for A Different World first, it is by far the preeminent representation of HBCUs in film and television.
Yes, it is.
Not a day goes by, including today at this event, where someone doesn't come up to me and say, I went to school or I went to an HBCU because I watched A Different World. Yep. I'm a lawyer, I'm a doctor, I'm an HBCU president because I went to A Different World. And because I watched A Different World. So my company, Blacktacular Entertainment, is producing the A Different World HBCU tour. And last year, of the many schools that we went to Howard.
Yes.
One of the most amazing things happened at Howard, where Kadeem thought there was feedback when we were playing a clip from the show, but it wasn't feedback. It was all the students in the audience reciting the dialogue from the show verbatim. Mm-hmm. And these are all kids who weren't even alive when A Different World aired in prime time. So when you look at not what A Different World did in 1987 to 93, but in every year since, we've inspired another generation to go to college, to get an education, to succeed and represent Black excellence on television.
Absolutely. And I'm glad you brought that up. So, A Different World and School Days have crossed generations.
Yes.
Why do you think it has remained so important to even younger people?
Because all of the issues we talked about on the show remain relevant. They are evergreen, whether you're talking about health, student protests, financial challenges, the pressure of going to school, relationships. How many people thought Whitley and Dwayne were couple goals, you know? and people today like, I found my Whitley or I found my Dwayne. That's a real thing.
Absolutely.
And for the kids, every generation can talk about whether or not they find the content of their generation to be inspiring.
Yeah.
A Different World still appeals to young people because they see themselves in all of the different characters. We were not a monologue, so we represented different points of view within our culture and within our community, and that's still relevant. The only thing that isn't in A Different World that we have now, the internet, social media, and AI.
Absolutely.
Very different.
Very different. Well, I want to thank you because, like I said, I went to Howard. My mother pushed me to Howard, so you guys have certainly made an impact. I want to end by asking.
So did Debbie Allen.
So did Debbie Allen, Felicia Rashad. We can name a lot. I want to end by asking you this. So, with this A Different World HBCU World Tour that you're on right now, tell us a little bit more about that, and then specifically help us understand how businesses can help engage the tour and make it more successful.
Oh, that's a great question. Well, certainly, corporate America can help because we're sponsored by Wells Fargo, Cisco, Truist Bank has been a partner. The more partners we have, we can go to more schools.
Certainly.
Because there's a cost to the event, and we're trying to not have the schools have to pay for it. And at the same time, we're trying to raise money for scholarships for the students and to continue to encourage institutional giving among all of our corporate partners. What we've seen from the Moody's Foundation and Mackenzie Scott and Michael Bloomberg and Reed Hastings, everyone that supports the United Negro College Fund or the Thurgood Marshall College Fund, that's student-facing. All of these institutions, many of which of the 107 HBCUs, have an endowment of less than $2 million, right? So institutional giving is important, and that's certainly how they can help. And I could go on, but everybody's trying to get out of here, and that time is running down, so they like, shut up, let's go.
Let's go. I was going to say, to your point, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, Mackenzie Scott gave a grant to UNCF earlier this week, about the tune of $70 million. So I'm glad that HBCUs are remaining relevant, having that cultural impact, and people seeing the importance of it.
Everyone's greatest regret is they can't really apply to Hillman.
Yeah.
That doesn't work.
Well, thank you, Daryl Bell, ladies and gentlemen. Appreciate you so much.
Thank you. Which way we're going?
Well, all right, folks. How are we feeling? Good? I want to thank you all for hanging in there and coming toward the end of our program. So we've ended the formal panel sessions. However, we have an incredible party coming up next with a reception to the left. I just want to really quickly give a very special thank you to all of our speakers and everyone who participated in the panel. Very special thank you to our partners, to BESLA, Motion Picture Association, RIAA, Distilled Spirits Council, and Entertainment Software Association, everyone who made this event possible. It was very, very important. But now it is time for us to have a good time. I will encourage everyone to venture to my left, your right, to go through these doors and have a party with DJ Camel. But once again, thank you all for coming out, and I'm glad that you all enjoyed the event. Thank you.